Hello and welcome to a very patriotic episode of Democracy 4. Democracy 4 is a game where you can pick a country and lead it through good times and bad, and we're going to do just that, but not in the way that you might think. And let's get started with the United States of America. Why? Oh, I think you know why. Let's do this. Oh, don't mind me. I'm just going to pick a few party names, and mine will be the Democratic Moderates. And there's a lesson in that, but we'll get to it in a bit. For the opposition, I'll pick the Holy Justice Alliance. And I would pick a third party, but that's not very American, is it? Let's adjust political apathy, turn that down a bit, and get started. Congratulations on your election victory. Welcome to your new job as president. The lives of all 328 million citizens are now in your hands. There are a number of situations and concerns that you'll need to deal with as soon as possible, while keeping an eye on the long-term improvement of quality of life. We face re-election in 4 years, so we need to monitor opinion polls and party membership. Good luck. Oh, thank you, random advisor. Anyway, let's take a look at our standings. Our GDP it needs work. Our health system is poor. Our education and poverty standings are pretty good, and unemployment and crime are moderately high. But we've got a majority of 10%, so that's good. Anyway, let's start the term. We've got 19 political power to start with, and one of the things that we need to pay close attention to is how we use that, because this game, more than anything else, is a balancing act where if you excessively anger one group, you need to take steps to either appease them or reduce their membership to the point where it's no longer a problem. So let's get started by looking at the secularism in education. So if we crank this up to the maximum science emphasis, we need to find a way. As you can see, this lowers religious membership by 6%, but it also lowers their opinion of us by 5%. So we need to find a way to counteract that. Let's find something that religious people can tolerate, just to keep things fairly balanced. How about the death penalty? And one of the things we can do here is lower that to reduce its impact. And as you can see, it doesn't really mess with religious opinion that much, but it's on the right track. So let's apply those changes. And we can move forward. Our standings for the new quarter are about the same, so let's turn to the issues at hand, such as tobacco adverts. There's a proposal to outlaw the advertising of tobacco on television. It would remain legal to advertise on billboards and by other means, but it can reduce smoking if we do a TV ban. Yes, let's do that. The liberals didn't like that for some reason, but tobacco usage went down, which is good. Okay, let's move on with 21 political power, and one of the things that I will do is focus on making sure that we keep things in balance. And one of the things I can do is focus on the gender transition laws. We need to get this standing down to -2 or maybe even 0% just to keep things in balance. That only affects it by 2%, so we're going to have to adopt other laws. But let's apply this change here and move forward from there. Okay, what can we do with our political power that the religious would like but that we can tolerate? Let's look at what they respond to by going over here. Most of these policies interfere with our long-term goals, so we can take steps by improving the space program, and that will encourage more technology and reduce the impact of religious problems. All of our standings seem to be about the same, so let's move on to the child labor law question. Too many younger citizens are leaving school early to take up low-paying jobs, and some are even skipping school when they should be learning. The law is very weak in regards to preventing companies from employing under 16s full-time. So should we make it a criminal offense? Let's compromise. That seems like a good middle option. Our GDP took a little bit of a hit, but we can manage. Okay, we have 17 political power, and one of the things we can do to cut the deficit and improve our credit rating is to raise some taxes. That won't get rid of the deficit completely, but it will make a dent. So let's apply those changes. And with our remaining political power, we can also improve community policing. This is very effective, and there are next to no downsides, so let's go with that. And it cost us nothing, so that's great. We can combat racial discrimination. Let's crank that funding up. What about school meals? We don't fund that hardly at all. Let's crank that all the way up. And that'll reduce poverty by quite a bit, so that's good. And we can do even more. Let's give law enforcement some more tasers. That'll do the trick. We can also help the witness protection program. That'll reduce violent crime by quite a bit. Okay, poverty has gone down by quite a bit, but this happened. An athlete supported a protest movement in a foreign country, and that caused problems. The liberals don't like it, the patriots don't like it, our diplomacy rating took a hit. That's to be expected, I guess. A major donor abandoned the party. By the way, if you're playing this happens quite a bit, so don't be too disturbed if it happens to you. What's in the news? The news is pointing out that there are a lot of young students who can't afford college because the government doesn't have university grants as a policy. Wait, shouldn't we have university grants? Our budget deficit went down to 726 million, so that's great. Okay, we have 16 political power. And our deficit is almost non-existent, but we can find some ways to reduce it. I don't see why we can't have a surplus. How about we go for alcohol taxes? Let's go for 4 billion. And that didn't use that much capital, so let's do some intelligence service reforms, crank that up. I mean, shouldn't they already have a spy satellite network, though? What else can we do? Combat gender discrimination? Sure. We're gonna crank that up to max legal equality. Just because. That didn't cost us that much. So let's help the environment a little bit. How about telecommuting? That'll reduce car usage by quite a bit, so let's implement that and crank it all the way up. Let's keep the country tidy. Crank that up. Maybe encourage healthy eating? Sure. That'll cut down on obesity a little bit. And we're at a capital. Our standings are pretty close to where they were. There's a climate change protocol that needs to be discussed. The UN signed a new protocol to limit the emission of greenhouse gases in industrialized countries. Your country participated in the talks and drove a hard bargain to not put too much strain on the economy. It can be costly, limiting GDP growth and worker productivity, but it can be the only way to save the environment. What do we do? Let's ratify it. The capitalists didn't like that, but it did cut CO2 emissions by 10%, so that's good. Okay, we have 16 political powers, so let's take a look at Gridlock. That's tied to traffic congestion, and it's almost going away, but we can do more. Perhaps we can find a way to put more cars on the road? Yeah, that'll do, and it'll cut our dependence on oil, so let's go for that. All the way up. And there's virtually no downside to it because everyone likes it except for maybe the oil executives, but we can manage that. Let's encourage fuel efficiency standards. Let's crank that all the way up. It'll be nice. And it'll cut CO2 emissions by quite a bit. So that's good. Okay, our health standards are going up and crime is going down. That's good. Oh, we got a whistleblower, though. A Secret Service contractor has shone a light on the dark side of the war on terror. Should we prosecute her or reform the Secret Service? Let's reform the Secret Service. The Patriots didn't like that, but the Liberals did, and our foreign relations have improved, so that's good, especially in the wake of that football star. We've got a small deficit. That's no big deal. Let's tackle the economy in an environmentally friendly way, and we can do that with clean energy subsidies. Let's crank that all the way up. And by the way, we're going to have to deal with the negative opinion from that, but For now, let's apply these changes. We're turning our country into a tax shelter. That's unpopular with the poor, but it will improve our relationship with the capitalists, and it'll juice the economy by quite a bit, so that's fine. Let's crank that all the way up. Okay, our GDP is up, our health standings are up, unemployment is down, and crime is down, so we're doing pretty good. Jasmine Williams is mad. She wants carbon capture to keep her on side. Okay, something is naturally entertaining. Great, that improved environmentalism, and our foreign relations standing rose too, so that's great. Ooh, traffic gridlock's gone. A major donor abandoned the party, but that's to be expected at this point. Haley Baker is mad about the state of science funding. In other countries, they take science and research seriously, and it feels like we're in the Stone Age here. So, yeah, we can adjust that policy. It's over here. Let's crank that up to the max. And now that I think of it, let's crank the space program up as far as we can get it. Health is up and crime is down. There's a transgender military ban question, though. We have our first openly transgender military personnel. These soldiers have become the center of a bitter culture war, and groups are asking us to endorse or ban trans people from serving in the military. We're going to endorse them. Just because. The liberals liked that, the patriots and conservatives didn't, but the youth did. Okay, we have 15 political power, and we need to improve our various law and order services. Yeah, for some reason the police force is almost not funded at all, so let's crank that up. By the way, I don't get this policy because it should be legal or illegal, and I don't know what the country gets when it lowers it down to medium or raises it up to maximum. Let's lower it down to medium. That will cut the religious problem a little bit and probably ward off the angels of heavenly justice, so that's good. What else can we do? Body cameras? Sure. That'll reduce corruption as well, so that's good. Our GDP is up and crime is going down. Alcohol abuse is not really a thing anymore. Prison overcrowding is not really a problem anymore. And we got a new donor. Not bad at all. Okay, one of the other things that we need to pay attention to is corporate medical marketing. Pharma companies have been giving money and other favors to doctors who prescribe their drugs, even though they may not be effective. This has been increased, and no physical harm has been done so far, but it's only a matter of time until something bad happens. Yes, we're going to introduce regulations to combat that. That helps. Everything else seems to be okay, and the angels of heavenly justice aren't that mad at us, so we'll keep an eye on them. They're at a 3. But we need to keep a close eye on them. For now, let's improve CCTV cameras. We'll crank that up to widespread. And we'll crank up freedom of the press just to offset the problem that the liberals have. Our health standings are up, crime is going down, but one of our ministers resigned. Ugh. Oh. Okay, we're gonna have to hire a replacement. Civil servants are striking. Okay, we're gonna have to take a look at what goes into that before it gets too out of hand. What's in the news, though? The government executed John Scott in a case of mistaken identity, and forensic evidence proves his innocence beyond all doubt. So we are going to have to take a look at the death penalty. Our polls took a hit, but that's to be expected, at least in the short term. Okay, so what can we do about the death penalty? We can cut it down to homicide. That should cut down the amount of cases that it has an effect on. Let's hire a minister and move on. Abigail Ortiz wants the transport minister job, and she has the right qualifications and sympathies, so let's hire her. Okay, crime is dropping like a rock. Marissa Martin is mad. She wants maternity leave. That's possible. Antisocial behavior is no longer a big problem. We've got a new donor, and we need to consider if we want to lay a wreath for a general. One of our longest-serving generals has died, and we must decide whether or not to lay a wreath at his funeral. He was a military hero, but was dogged by accusations of racism, misogyny, and bullying towards the end of his career. We're not going to lay the wreath. Although, shouldn't he have gotten fired because of that? You know, if several other generals have gotten fired in real life, you'd think that he would. Yeah, we're not laying a wreath. Okay, that's to be expected. The Angels of Heavenly Justice are getting a little bit madder, which is a bit strange considering I tried to balance things out, but I'll have to take a look at that. Okay, they aren't moving up that much, and we can take steps by adding funding to the police, and perhaps by implementing other laws, but we're going to have to wait on that. For now, we can crank up art funding. Yeah, that'll improve the economy and tourism by quite a bit, so let's do that. And we'll save up the rest of our capital. Crime is dropping like a rock, but there's a religious plot. That's not good. Our credit rating got upgraded, though. Wait, shouldn't it already be AAA? Never mind. Okay, we're gonna have to do something about that religious plot. We've got 27 political capital, so we can do a lot with that. Law and order. We can implement wiretapping. Shouldn't we already have this, though? Now let's implement that. On police request. That's a good balance. Okay, our GDP went down a little bit, but crime went down to the point of almost non-existence, so that's good. Oh, and we killed a terrorist leader. A terrorist leader has been killed in a drone strike by our military. Everyone liked that, but ethnic minorities somehow didn't. There's a religious plot afoot, and we need to work on that. We're gonna ignore the welfare fraud situation for the moment because I don't want to get shot.